Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the 2014 What the Puck. And of course, today, it's the Rangers right here. But the hockey expert at TYT, and I've known this now for a few years, Chanel Berlin, here to talk about her Kings. You can follow her at ThanksBud, at THXBUD. Fantastic Twitter handle, tweeting about the Los Angeles Kings. I guess that's going to go all summer long, even though.
Yeah, we talk about the Kings all the time. We've been talking about them all season. It's a blog and podcast that I co-host with a friend of mine, Diane Fan. So yeah, if you want more about the Kings, but we also talk about the rest of the NHL too, that's where to find me.
And like every other sport, the NHL will not sleep this summer. Neither, of course, will ThanksBud. But the Rangers, segue, have been a little bit asleep, maybe, at points in overtime. We're now at 2-0. Two fantastic hockey games. Certainly fantastic overtime, Chanel. I don't think the games themselves have been as good as the overtimes, although the third period the other night was pretty good. What are the Kings doing that the Rangers aren't?
I think what it is that the Kings can outlast the Rangers. Like, people have noted that the Rangers are giving them a lot of trouble on speed, which is true for the Kings. They're a faster team than they have been in recent years, but they're not the fastest team in the league. The Rangers have some really fast players who come out strong early, but then they seem to run out of gas right when the Kings pick it up the best. They're a third period team.
So go with me on this. Go with me. It's as if a tortoise were racing, I don't know, a hare.
Yeah.
Right? I know that sounds ridiculous. And the tortoise, slow and steady wins the race. Do you think that's what's happening? I mean, the Kings are not a slow hockey team. That's the thing. People have all season long talked about the speed of the Kings. They've run into what I think they're overblowing the Rangers' speed. They've come out fast in both games. They had 2-0 leads in both games. So the Kings have had to play catch up, which they've done all playoffs long. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what's happened is I think that the Rangers' other lines are not as fast. So I think they're getting a false sense of, oh my God, there's a storm coming when you see the Rangers' top line. But then after that, it doesn't go as deep.
It's very true. I think there are some players who really are great at it. But if you look at, like, my favorite thing to look at is possession. And like last night, all of the Kings, with the exception of the top line, came out positive or at least even against the Rangers players.
Yeah.
So the Kings can keep up. But so it seems like they're relying on their faster guys to get it done, and then when they can't, it gives the Kings room to get back in the game.
Right. We should say 2 nights ago, tonight is Game 3. The Rangers, I think, have to look at Rick Nash here. There was a period where he scored a goal in the Montreal series, in the last series. Everybody thought, oh, Rick Nash is back, Rick Nash is back. Rick Nash has really been invisible. You look at Marian Gaborik, who's done so well for the Kings and in the playoffs. I mean, I think he's got 12 goals in the playoffs now. Marian Gaborik, a former Ranger coming back to the Garden, he didn't play real well as a Ranger. But if you think about what would you rather have had when they made the calculus to get Rick Nash and not to keep Marian Gaborik, looking at it now, maybe a big mistake.
I mean, there's also the added thing with that where a couple years ago they traded for Jeff Carter, and before that trade happened, the question was Nash or Carter from Columbus.
Yeah.
They chose Carter, and so now, so far, it seems to be benefiting the Kings. But I think if they can get Rick Nash going, it was sort of a factor last series between the Kings and the Blackhawks. Once Patrick Kane got going, he was a problem for the Kings. So if they can get Rick Nash going, I think that helps them out a whole lot.
Speaking of Jeff Carter, I took a screen grab picture of Jeff Carter, which you'll see now, and I tweeted it out, and I said, I think you probably saw it. It said because it's the Cup, which is kind of their hashtag this year, and Jeff Carter's girlfriend tweeted me and said,
I saw that.
Did you see that? She retweeted and said, thanks, this is my new background. Let's talk about Anze Kopitar here a little bit, because like Nash, I mean, he hasn't shown up a lot on the score sheet. What's going on with Kopitar?
I think Kopitar is targeted. Him and probably Drew Doughty are the players on the Kings that are targeted the most.
But Doughty's been unbelievable.
Yeah, and
best player in the playoffs.
Unstoppable, Drew Doughty. Anze Kopitar is having a little bit more trouble, I think, and they're able to shut him down so far, which is a credit to actually Ryan McDonough, who he has spent most of his time against, is having a lot of trouble with him.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to have to figure out how to get some separation between Kopitar and McDonough to really see Kopitar shine again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not the only line, but one of the biggest lines for the Kings in Game 2 was that top line. They had 2 goals.
Right. And that's the difference. I think that you see the Rangers getting production from their third and fourth lines. The Kings are actually getting production from their top line. The Rangers have to go that way. I mean, Marty St. Louis did get a goal the other night. Actually, it was a beautiful beautiful goal. But I think that the Rangers have to find a way to get some production there. Also, you know, the Rangers defense in the transition game, that is something they're going to have to work at Madison Square Garden, because the Kings are getting a lot of support from their back line, moving the puck out of their own zone. The Rangers haven't been doing that as much. It's Game 3 tonight. Again, like, what's going on with these Kings with coming back? Can they keep affording? Can they keep allowing themselves to get down 2 goals?
I don't think they want to. I think that's a bad strategy. But at the same time, I think these first 2 games have been a little misleading, in that, like, Game 2 to start, they had more shot attempts, more scoring chances than the Rangers. They just happen not to get the goals. So I think if they start to get those leads, it'll be really tough for the Rangers. But if they put themselves in another position where the Kings have to come back, I think the Rangers can run away with it finally. I think they've had enough experience.
It feels like this series is going to have one blowout game in one direction or the other. Lundqvist at home, really hard to beat. He's a tougher goalie at the Garden, and so that's going to factor, I'm sure. The other thing that you talked about, the Rangers did come back from 3. All the attention has been on the Kings coming back from 3-0 against the Sharks, being down in every game in this series, in both games in this series, and a few games in the Chicago series. The Rangers were down 3-1 to Pittsburgh going into Pittsburgh, and I think that's an important thing to remember.
I think that was the first time the Rangers ever came back from being down 3-1 as well, so you can't discredit that.
Yeah, so I think that's something they have to remember. Both these teams know how to come back. I'm out of the predicting game with this thing, but I do think that the Rangers are going to win tonight. I'm not so sure about Game 4.
I agree about tonight. I think this is the game that they could take. I don't want them personally to take Game 4, obviously.
I understand that,
I
but
think
you're
they have
wrong
a great
about
chance.
that, Chanel. What one King to watch? People who don't watch the Kings regularly, one King to watch in tonight's game.
Well, I mean, Drew Doughty is the obvious one, but I think it's Marian Gabourik's first time playing against the Rangers.
You're talking about the guy who's been the best in the playoffs and the guy who's leading in goals.
Yeah.
What about one King that no one's ever heard of? Yeah,
who
exactly.
They're not thinking about.
Right.
I would say, but everybody's thinking about Justin Williams now.
Right. Well, they are, but he's a good one to watch, because when Justin Williams has the puck, and we're going to get to why that's important a little bit later too, the refs are even watching Justin Williams with the puck. Everybody's watching Justin Williams. He's dangerous. He's a guy that nobody pays a ton of attention to outside of the Western Conference. So that's a good one to watch. The Rangers, look at Derek Brassard. Brassard woke up in the last game. I think he's somebody that the Rangers need to rely on.
I have a Ranger to watch, and that's Anton Strawman. Anton Strawman has been amazing.
He's been amazing. He's been very good, but he's also going to be key to that transition game. So if Strawman, if you do see Strawman show up tonight, then that's a good player to pick. If you do see Strawman show up tonight, it means that they were watching TYT Sports and they understand how important it is to watch What the Puck and realize you have to work on your transition game. Michael Schur, Chanel Berlin, watch hockey because it's the Cup.